I've said in a previous video that one of the things that has led to fatherlessness in Britain and fathers not having as much contact with their children, particularly after separation and divorce, is based on how much parenting time that they had with their children prior to separating. And there's a really interesting piece of research which was done entitled, I hadn't really thought about it, New Identities and New Fatherhoods. I'm going to read something to you. Divorce exposes the taken for granted nature of gender relationships in heterosexual partnerships. Just as divorce exposes women's vulnerability to poverty and their lack of understanding in the labor market, so too does divorce render visible the pretense of fatherhood as an active relationship rather than a passive status. By this, we mean that for the majority of heterosexual couples who follow traditional childcare arrangements, fatherhood still does not routinely provide an identity for a man, nor necessarily an active, involved relationship with children. What I mean by this, and I really wanted to explain to people because I found it in my research on these social and psychological reasons that lead fathers to become estranged from their children and lose contact, is that we really have to start getting men involved in the parenting of their children from very early on, because we know that people get divorced. Like, people have the right intentions, they are in love, whatever, but then down the road, people do get divorced. And what happens is, if that father hasn't had any practice in parenting, in looking after the kids, in dressing the kids, in all of these things that involve parenting, which many men are just simply not aware of, after they split up with their kids, a lot of the time, a huge amount of the conflict happens because the mother has spent years or months looking after the child, and so they've established routines and patterns, and then the father hasn't at all, and is having to do all these things, and the mother's like, you're going to kill the child, and you're not doing it properly. And so they keep criticizing the man, and the more that they criticize the man, the more the man doesn't feel competent, which means he's less likely to then engage or be up for looking after the child. And so a huge amount of this comes with that men have to be courageous enough to rearrange their lives in such a way that they can spend time with their children early on in the child's life, but also mothers have to be kind enough to allow and brave enough to allow the man to mess up as he starts to figure out things for himself. I don't know if that makes sense.